Welcome to one of the past HSC exam question videos. In this question, we're going to cover this exam video. In this video, we're going to cover this exam question, which is the question 29 or 28 of the 2010 paper. While doing a second, I'll read the actual question. Once I write the question, you have about 5 seconds to pause the video. Once you pause the video, attempt the question, and then press play when you're ready. Right? So the question itself says, organ transplants may trigger an immune response, which can lead to organ rejection. The diagram below represents a model of 2 heart cells, one from a transplant recipient and one from a donor. A. What does Y represent? B. Assess the effectiveness of the model and explain the cause of organ rejection in the transplant patient. And C. Name and outline the role of 2 types of T lymphocytes in organ rejection, and that's for 4 marks. So when you're ready, pause the video and attempt the question. Welcome back. Alright, so the first one, what does Y represent? The marking guideline says to get 1 mark out of 1, all you have to do is identify the correct name for Y, and that was the antigen, right? So we're talking about antigens here. So if you said antigen, that will get you 4 mark, and that's what I wrote, so antigen gets you your mark. Next one is assess the effectiveness of the model in explaining the cause rejection of transplanted recipients. So to get full marks, so 3 out of 3, you should provide judgment about the model's effectiveness, but also support that judgment with a piece of evidence which correctly reflects the rejection process. So basically, say if it's effective, but also say why. So how is it effective? What does it show? Right? So for example, I said that yes, it's effective because it shows a difference in antigens, and these antigens are important in triggering the immune response, as cytotoxic T cells will go towards them and are activated by them and basically kill the transplanted tissue. So that means in this case I've said yep, they're effective because they show antigens, and then I had to show or say why these antigens are important, because they trigger the immune response, specifically the cytotoxic T cells, which will then kill the transplanted organs. But I also said that it's not super, there could be improvements, and improvements I will show as well, because it says assess, which just means you need to, if there are some improvements, do mention that what you could improve, or just back it up as well. So what I wrote is the model is relatively effective in showing the cause of organ rejection, as it shows that recipients' heart cells have different antigens than donor heart cells, right? So it's different antigens means that's how it's effective, but then we have to go into examples of how that links to the actual immune response. The activated cytotoxic T lymphocytes will detect these antigens and thereby destroy the transplanted organ tissue. So they are to detect them, or you could have said they are activated by them because the T helper cells can activate them, right? And then what I still wrote is I just talked about one improvement that the model could include to show the process of antigens detection by lymphocytes. So how these actually are somehow involved in detection. So the actual lymphocytes being activated by one of them. That could be an improvement that could be made, right? If you didn't include that statement, that's fine, no problem at all. If you said it was effective because of the above reason, right? You still get your full marks. I just included a possible improvement. Right, but then the next one was name and outline 2 roles of 2 T lymphocytes in organ rejection. Marking guidelines says to get full marks of 4 out of 4. Sketch in general terms the role of 2 named T lymphocytes in organ rejection. So by naming them and by quickly giving them the marker an idea of what they do, you'll get full marks. So I said T helper cells secrete interleukins when an antigen of a donor heart cell is presented to it. So that's how they help, because these interleukins, what I write next, these interleukins will activate cytotoxic T cells, right? So the T helper cell, I've named one, that's good, and then I've said that once they're activated, they will spread this interleukin, which will activate the cytotoxic T cells. So this is the first part, and the second part was then what the cytotoxic T cells do, and what they do is the cytotoxic T cells will travel to the transplanted organ tissue and inject toxins into cytoplasm of the cell that will kill the transplanted organ cell. Right, so this is what the actual cytotoxic T cells do. So now I've named both cytotoxic T cells and T helper cells, and I've said what each of it has in terms of role of the actual whole process, donor rejection. So I will get my full marks, but I just gave a quick statement at the end. By deactivating cytotoxic T cells, the rejection of the organ tissue can be avoided. And it didn't have to be required, but I just said if we can deactivate those, we can not have rejection of organ tissue. And where these questions come from, they came from this dot point. So explain why organ transplant should trigger the immune response. So this was number A, number B, and number C. They all came from that one. And this one was less so, outline the reasons for the suppression of the immune response in organ transplant patients. Again, it wasn't really questioned, more this dot point. But the other one is also somewhat relevant. But hopefully that was useful.